And I have come around to your way of thinking, and my question to you is, would you explain to the people that say that you and people like you and myself, that we're pacifists and that we would allow an invasion force to come in here and just mow us down, that there are constitutional ways to wage war and to protect and defend this republic, are there not?
Absolutely, and if you go to war, it should be declared. What they're confusing is if you want to give up on the notion of aggression, you're not a pacifist. You're trying to avoid war, of course, but you don't want to ever start wars. If you have to go to war, you should declare it. But I just think that everything that we do actually undermines our national security. And besides, it contributes to our bankruptcy. Some of our enemies in the Middle East said, we want to drag you in here. We want to drain you. We want to bankrupt your country like we did to the Soviets. So it's not like this is all an accident, but we have fallen into the trap. So I think it's so dangerous. But no, there's very few things the federal government should be doing. One is national defense. But that doesn't mean that we have to be the policemen of the world. We were advised strongly we shouldn't be involved in the internal affairs of other nations, and we shouldn't, be this involved to the point where it undermines everything that we're doing. But no, it's a far cry from pacifism. But I'm very, very annoyed with what has happened over many decades, because we have been involved secretly all the way back to overthrowing the government in the 1950s of Iran, which
right.
we're still suffering from. But now, since the last administration, they put it in concrete and said that preventive war is okay, morally okay, which means aggression. We're now allowed to attack countries whether or not they've done any harm to us, because they might do us harm someday, and we can anticipate that. So we need to go in. And Obama is endorsing that same view because he's very much involved in spreading the war into Pakistan.
And he's going to have to spread it into Pakistan. If you read the editorial in Investors Business Daily today, apparently that's where Taliban recruits are coming from.
Sure, they just move around, and I think 90-some% of the Pakistani people don't like us. They're sick and tired of us dropping these bombs over there. We go after one so-called Taliban leader, and we kill a lot of civilians. And you wonder why they get annoyed with us? I mean, this is an act of war. So if people say that we shouldn't bomb Pakistan, that we're pacifists, I think they're awfully confused.
Congressman Ron Paul spending some time with us here this morning on the Mike Church Show on Sirius Satellite Radio and XM Satellite Radio. You're nationwide today, Ron.
Wow, wonderful.
Staying on that same subject, some constitutional scholars and friends of mine, namely Dr. Kevin Gutzman and Dr. Thomas Woods, who I know you're familiar with both of them,
right,
think it's high time that Congress took back the foreign policy making power that it was granted under the Constitution. What do you think about that?
Well, that would help a whole lot, but the history is against us because Congress too often, is derelict in assuming their responsibilities. And I went through this when we were getting ready to go into Iraq, and I heard it said, and I believe it is true, that members of Congress didn't really want to take the responsibility of declaring and making a decision about going to war. Democrats were still, arguing, well, if it goes badly, then we can blame the Republicans for it.
Right.
So they don't like to assume this responsibility, and they always find an excuse. Oh, well, they know more than we do, and we have to do what they tell us. But no, I think their argument is absolutely right. When you look at it, of course, the word foreign policy, the term doesn't exist in the Constitution, but if you look at the responsibilities of the Congress about raising armies and declaring war and on, the president is the commander-in-chief after we instruct him to go to war. That's it.
And that's the key point here. Now, some questions that I don't hear a lot of folks get a chance to ask you, and I'd like to ask these three questions in succession. Number one, your thoughts on the following three things. One, nullification.
I think it's a great idea. It was never really successful in our history, but I think it's going to grow in importance, and I think it's going to grow because the federal government will be seen as inept and ineffective, and I think it'll almost be de facto in the sense that the states will eventually just ignore some of the mandates.
And Article 5 convention, as Dr. Gutzman has suggested, to repair and to clarify the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, to repair and to clarify the Commerce Clause, and there's one other that he has in there, but those are the two main things that he thinks an Article 5 convention ought to be called or convened by the states to address. What do you think?
Yeah, and there's other places. I mean, people argue that you could make it very emphatic so they couldn't distort the Second Amendment. I think it's all good and would be probably worthwhile, but where I would become not overly optimistic about it is that if we wanted to, and if we fully understood our history and knew original intent, and we had the courts and the executive branch and the Congress already obeying what is very, very clear, we wouldn't be this bad off. I mean, it's still pretty clear about the monetary position in the Congress. So changing it and making the language slightly better, if you don't have a moral people and a moral representation in Washington, it doesn't matter. The Constitution and the Soviet system wasn't the worst thing in the world. It pretended to protect individual rights, but it was the people that was involved. So I would say the moral character of the people and our representation is even more important than changing the words, which I would support anyway.
All right, then the final one on those three is there are people that have the S word on their tongues these days too, and that is the secession word. Is that historically legal in your estimation?
Well, it's been proven illegal because they fought and killed 600,000 people trying to prove it. The founders believed it was an option that was available. They just assumed it. Too bad they didn't write that in the Constitution. That would have been worthwhile. But I think secession probably isn't going to happen. I think the talk is very positive, but I think it's going to be close to nullification, that we won't be seceding. But if governments, let's say Gary North is right and they can't put it back together and Social Security doesn't work at all, people are just going to take it upon themselves to totally ignore the federal government. So we might be more loosely knit a nation, and maybe these conditions will force us to bring our troops home. So it can't be all bad, but I don't anticipate that all of a sudden we in Texas will secede from the Union and get away with it.
All right, our time is just about up. Let me ask you two final questions. Number one, you just mentioned the state of Texas. Your thoughts on the states using the constitutional authority that was not prevented or taken from them, that they did not grant, which is when the dollar goes belly up, issuing their own silver and gold coins?
Well, they can't. They can. The Constitution said that the states can only use silver and gold as legal tender.
Right.
So that does not write a prohibition against the state issuing gold coins. But they did not want the states. They were very explicit. They did not want the states to print their own money.
Right.
So that would be the prohibition. But for states to issue gold and silver coins, that's fine. But I tell you, we already have availability of gold and silver coins, and something I'm working on right now is we want to repeal the laws that prevent people from working and using an alternative currency like gold and silver. So I want to get rid of the legal tender laws and get rid of taxes on gold and silver. Then the states would be able to issue their own coins if they want, or just use the ones that are available. Okay,
fantastic. And final question of the day, Congressman Ron Paul. Can we send you a copy of our movie about the Constitution, The Spirit of 76?
I'd be delighted to see that.
We'll take you inside of Independence Hall when Madison and Hamilton and Dickinson and Franklin were actually debating the Constitution, and then to the Virginia Ratification Convention. It would be the honor and thrill of my life if you'd watch that movie, Congressman.
That would be wonderful. I'll be glad to take a look at that.
Well, listen, always a pleasure. Merry Christmas to you and to Carol and your entire family. And we're going to have Rand on here soon to talk about what's going on in Kentucky. And it's always a pleasure, Ron. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Anytime. There you go. Congressman Ron Paul for you there today, ladies and gentlemen. He answers all the questions, doesn't he?